Welcome to Movie Rundown today. We are going to take a look at the movie It Boy. If you're ready, let's begin. In the first scene, a woman named Alice is unhappy with the color of a magazine printed at the printing center and asks for it to be changed. However, the printing supervisor tells her that it has already been changed 4 times and asks her to make do with it. While Alice is going to the airport by taxi for a business trip, she makes a few phone calls and boards the plane. A man makes an unsuccessful attempt to help her. Then, a man named Balthazar boards the plane and is seated next to Alice in the business class because his seat in the economy class was occupied. Alice asks the flight attendant for lobster as a meal, and Balthazar also asks for the same, but he learns that he cannot order a meal because he upgraded his ticket. Later, the plane encounters severe turbulence, and Alice becomes very scared. Balthazar tries to calm her down, but Alice becomes even more tense, and she holds Balthazar's hand to relax. Afterwards, the plane lands, and Balthazar tells Alice, "Even being on the verge of dying with you was a pleasure," and they introduce themselves to each other. Balthazar finds a USB drive dropped by Alice on the floor and tries to catch up with her to return it, but he can't make it. Later, his friend picks him up in a sports car. Alice goes to the magazine office and tells people about her journey. Then she goes to her boss's office and expresses her disappointment about his consideration of handing over the magazine company to someone else. Her boss tells her that the person he wants to hand it over to has an interesting love life and suggests the same for her. Alice's ex-husband comes to her house, and they have some awkward moments. In the evening, Alice looks at something on her computer and then calls Balthazar to meet and get the USB drive. Balthazar gives her the address of the bar where he is and explains the situation to his friends. Alice gets out of the car, and Balthazar escorts her inside. He asks her what she wants to drink, but Alice is in a hurry and asks for the USB drive. Balthazar tells her it's at his place, so Alice asks him to take her there. Balthazar puts her on his masculine motorcycle and takes her to his house, while 2 young girls take their pictures and post them on social media. When Balthazar enters the house with Alice, he sees that Anissa, a girl, is at his father Luke's house. Anissa is Balthazar's childhood friend and has become his father's girlfriend. Balthazar's father, Luke, shows them his uninteresting program, and then Balthazar gives the USB drive to Alice. As Alice is leaving the house, Balthazar offers her to have coffee, but Alice declines and says goodbye. When Alice arrives at work the next morning, everyone is looking at her, and she can't understand what's going on. When her secretary enters the room, Alice asks her what's happening. The secretary shows her the photos of Alice and Balthazar that were taken, and Alice is shocked. However, the boss is very happy to see these photos. Although Alice tries to explain that it's a misunderstanding, the boss doesn't believe her and leaves. Alice shares the situation with her friend, thinks about it at home, and then makes a decision. The next day, Alice enters Balthazar's university in a very sexy way and waves at him. Balthazar goes to Alice, they greet each other, and Alice asks him to show her around. While they walk, Alice tells him how her memories of university are coming back. Later, Alice asks Balthazar if he has plans for the evening, and they agree to spend time together. After spending some time with her daughter, Alice meets Balthazar, and they attend an art event together where they meet a man named Claude, who organized the event. Claude approaches Alice and exhibits narcissistic behavior while asking Balthazar for his thoughts on the gallery. After Balthazar criticizes him harshly, he leaves. Alice and Balthazar talk to people on the balcony, and Alice smokes a magical cigarette to prove herself, and they leave the art event. Alice's sister calls her and insists that she come to their prearranged meeting, which is intended to introduce Alice to a doctor and discuss romance. Alice goes to her sister's house and meets the doctor, but due to the magical cigarette, she does embarrassing things. Alice, still disappointed with her boss's lack of attention, goes to a fashion event with Balthazar, where Balthazar helps a fallen model, which he shouldn't have done. After the event, Balthazar apologizes to Alice and they go to an after-party together. Here, Alice may run into her boss and introduces Balthazar to him. The boss is very surprised by this relationship and asks many questions. While Alice lifts Balthazar to dance, they have a close and intimate dance adventure. Later, when a girl tries to take their pictures, Alice wants to leave immediately, and they go home. While Balthazar says something in Italian as she leaves, He thinks he said something wrong and rushes to Alice's house. He knocks on the door, and when Alice opens it, they start kissing, and Balthazar spends the night there. The next morning, Alice excitedly wakes up and tells Balthazar that they need to go, but due to heavy rain, Alice can't bear to let Balthazar go and asks him to stay at home while she gives him some food. Alice's daughter and sister come to the house, and Balthazar leaves before kissing Alice. The next day, Balthazar surprises Alice and takes her on a beautiful ride with his legendary motorcycle. Afterwards, Alice attends a meeting and delivers an unexpected performance, which surprises everyone. Then she reflects on her relationship with Balthazar and examines her inner fears. Alice meets Balthazar again, and they have drinks together in a futuristic conference hall. Alice talks to him about the problem of their age difference and says that she thinks they shouldn't see each other anymore. The next day, Alice's ex-husband tells her that their daughters saw the photos of Alice and Balthazar and had a traumatic reaction. Alice gets angry and tells him that he did the same, but her ex-husband explains that what he did was right because of social structure. Alice gets angry and kisses a passing man, saying, "Here's your social structure." Balthazar is deeply saddened by their separation and tells his father about it, but his father shares his useless life philosophies with him. The big boss comes to the office while Alice is at work, examines the magazine cover, doesn't like the model, and asks for another one. While everyone shows model photos, the big boss sees a picture of Balthazar on Alice's computer and chooses him as the model. Although Alice doesn't want this to happen, she has no other choice. She calls Balthazar but can't reach him. Then Alice goes to Balthazar's house, knocks on the door, and Balthazar invites her inside. Alice suggests going out, and Balthazar agrees. They go to a cafe together and start a conversation. Alice explains the situation about the photo to Balthazar, but he refuses to accept it and leaves. Alice calls after him, and later Balthazar tells her that he will call her. On the shooting day, Balthazar's father brings him to the set with a very sexy car, and Balthazar immediately goes to makeup. Meanwhile, Alice's friend mistakenly believes that Alice's relationship with Balthazar is a fiction and apologizes for it. Balthazar confronts the truth and goes to the photo shoot in a furious state. He fights with the photographer and walks away. Alice follows him and asks for his help, but Balthazar tells her that he knows everything and yells at her. The entire crew hears it, and Alice gets fired from her job. Days pass, and Alice realizes that she misses Balthazar more with each passing day. She considers leaving him a voicemail, but decides to go to Balthazar's university instead. When she enters the auditorium, the academics mistake her for a speaker and invite her to the podium. Initially, Alice doesn't know what to say, but then she indirectly speaks to Balthazar. Alice steps down from the podium, apologizes to Balthazar, and they kiss. Afterwards, they spend their days together, happy, and even write a book about him. In the final scene, we see them riding their motorcycle down the street, and the film ends. If you enjoyed the content, please consider liking and subscribing to show your support. By doing so, you'll stay updated with future content and help us reach a wider audience. Your support means a lot to us.